Well, howdy, physics sleuths and inquisitive souls, and welcome again to yet another lecture of Sermon of Sean. So, today we are going to be digging a little bit into the Rapture. I've talked about this briefly here and there in other videos, but I haven't really dedicated any sort of a video to it, and I really haven't gone into too much detail of it. So today we're going to dig in and squash a few of the myths that a lot of people have regarding the rapture, right? Now, a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me. Unfortunately, they have reasons for this. If we look at the rapture, it's just basically the concept that in the final days, when Jesus is coming back, you see, he has to, after Jesus dies and gets resurrected and proves that he was rezzed and is still alive, he says he has to go and prepare a place. And that when he comes back, he's going to do so in a giant cube mothership, like a Borg spaceship, that's like 1,400 stadia, I believe, in dimensions. The cube is, and it's going to be called New Jerusalem. And this cube, Borg cube, is going to hover over Jerusalem, Israel, and it's going to be visible to all from space. And it's essentially going to serve as the base, the operations for what we know as heaven in regards to our species, as God gives it to us. So technically, it's not even really known if anyone is in heaven right now that's ever lived, or if they have to wait until Jesus returns with this mothership that God gave him to be our heaven. And he has to prepare this and bring it here from God's home planet, wherever that is, Zeta Reticuli, wherever you believe, okay? So, that's the deal with Jesus leaving and coming back, and then that initiates the rapture. Because the world is spiraled out by this time into a very sinful place. Sin meaning that humans behave more like animals than the demigods that God created them to be. Okay? That's what sin is. It's animalistic behaviors that linger in your neurological pathways because you came from an animal. But you're not an animal now. Now you're a demigod. You're half god and half animal. Which side do you want to lean into is the question really for that one. Okay? So, Jesus comes back and the world is spiraled out evil, alright? And all religions say this. That it's all written the same way, just in different times and different cultures to different people. And so the world is unmanageable by God's terms, alright? And there's a lot of evil people that God doesn't want to keep living. So, he kills 2/3 of the planet. And technically we do it to ourselves. Technically I believe it's Putin's nukes are going to hit in about 7 months from now. Your time is running out. TikTok. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a 5-month-long nuclear winter, according to the Bible, right? And then 2/3 of the planet's going to die. So the question becomes, what the fuck is Jesus talking about when he's talking about rapture? The word rapture is not in the Bible. It came about later on, okay, to try to describe this event that Jesus clearly explains in various different times in different ways, okay? And the way Jesus describes it is basically God's going to harvest his humanity, okay? And he's going to want to collect the good humans, but they're going to be intertwined and embedded in the lives of all the bad humans that he doesn't want because they're sinful animals. There's no room for an animal in heaven. It's for gods only. Sorry. That's what Earth is for. It's for all the animals. You want to be an animal? You can stay here on Earth. Die. Like all the animals do. No afterlife for you, sorry. At least not a good one. Alright? So, we have, I forgot where I was at. But, why does the rapture have to happen? Okay? And this is a question that if you don't understand, it's really hard to understand when the rapture is going to happen. Okay? We know that Jesus says it's going to come towards the end. Alright? The final days, the final hours, blah, 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 the end of the age, okay? And there's a lot of interpretations to what this could mean, okay? You have post-tribunal premillennialism, which I believe says that it occurs after. Wait, hold on. What is this? Post-millennium, second coming, last judgment, second coming, last judgment. Wow, this is just so confusing right here. Listen, there's two camps. Okay, there is the pre-tribulation rapture camp, and then there is the post-tribulation rapture camp. Okay. The pre-tribulation says that the rapture will be that as soon as Jesus can, like as soon as he returns with his Borg spaceship, his mothership, New Jerusalem, he's going to immediately pull all the good Christians that he wants. And then begin the end days tribulation for everyone else. But this doesn't really float for a lot of reasons. Number one, a tribulation is a test. Why the fuck am I testing you if you've already failed and you're going to be failed out of my class? Why am I bothering to keep testing you at this point? It just seems pointless and inefficient and ineffective. But this is what they're claiming. Because the tribulation is God testing. 7-year great tribulation, okay? Broken apart into 3.5 year segments, okay? So what God is doing is he's testing humanity to see which ones are worthy of going to heaven and which ones are not during this tribulation period. But if he's already pulled all the ones he wants, and all that's left are the ones he don't want, and is already condemned to not go to heaven, then that's not a test. That's a punishment. That's the beginning of a punishment. But that's not the way it's portrayed by Jesus or anyone. It's portrayed as the final test for the humans that are alive in that time. Which means it seems like we're already heading in the direction of a post-tribunal rapture. Meaning the 7-year tribulation occurs first, and then the rapture occurs at the very, very end. Like the final day, the final hour of the 7-year tribulation. And then God comes and retrieves those souls that he believes are worthy of the past, and then lets all the other ones wither away and go into doom. Okay? So, and if you look at this, I don't know what poll this is. I don't know if this is very accurate, but they're claiming that about a third of Christians believe in the pre-tribulation, and that another third believes it's just the pastors do not interpret the rapture as literal physical event, so that it's just meant like a parable, the entire rapture. Like, oh, Jesus is not really actually talking about collecting the good Christians he wants and condemning the bad ones. It's all parables. Seems kind of ridiculous to me. And only 18% believe in the post-tribulation. So half of those that believe in the pre-tribulation believe in the post-tribulation, and as many that believe in the pre-tribulation believe that there is no tribulation. It's just all wordplay that we've misunderstood. And then you got 10% that they don't even know what to think. They're just all over the place. Basically, there's not a whole lot of people that are really believing in the post-tribulation. Only not even 1 out of every 5 Christians. Not a whole lot. All right? And the Bible verses that allude to the tribulation and the rapture that occur, there's not many of them, but, they're not incredibly descriptive. But there are some hints that they drop that I think are pretty conclusive as to when the rapture is going to happen. And I believe we can determine why as well, with a little bit of common sense. Okay? So, just be known, the rapture event is really not talked about too much. Jesus mentions it a few times, maybe a few more. But there are a lot of theory crafting that goes into this. Okay. This one is a pretty good breakdown. They try and really break down the good timeline of everything as it occurs and what it means to be immediately after the tribulation. Sun is darkened, moon should give them the light, stars have no blah blah blah. And the consensus that this thing seems to come to, from what I can tell so far, is that they believe in a post-tribulation rapture. Just because there's too much stuff that's being said that alludes to things that would not happen if there were a pre-tribulation rapture. Okay? There's a lot of people who will suffer, okay, during the tribulation. And it says that a lot of those people are going to be Christians. They're going to suffer from this and that. And there's a lot of verses where God says, hey, Christians, guard yourselves during, Jesus says, guard yourself during the tribulation, because if you don't, then you're going to fail it. And it's okay, well, but if all the Christians were gathered before the tribulation, why does that even need to be said? Why do I need to guard myself during the tribulation as a Christian if I'm expected to be collected before the tribulation even begins and to be on New Jerusalem, our Borg spaceship of heaven, that is, where Jesus is at? None of this adds up the more you think about it, right? From a post-tribulation perspective. And there's a lot of good verses they have in here. But what I want to show you is something a little different. Okay? So this is the King James Bible, Revelations chapter 20, okay? And they're talking about when the angels come and they wage the final war against, all the devils and everything, and all the beasts and the kings, and they cast the false prophet and the beast that, caused revelations into a bottomless pit. And the nations shall see no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosened a little season. So, for whatever reason, after 1,000 years, God's going to not clamp down quite so much, and this is going to allow lies to be told again. They're going to lead to a second rebellion, which is described here. And by the rest of the dead not live again till the 1,000 years were finished and resurrected. The blessed, holy, the high part resurrection, such as hath no power, be the priest of God in Christ. and shall reign with him 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are expired. Satan shall be loosened out of his prison, and shall go out and deceive the nations and the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, which apparently seems to be Russia, and whoever's leading Russia, so currently Putin. But this is talking about 1,000 years from now, not now. Okay, to gather them, behold, the battle of number whom is the sands of the sea. So basically, millions, a shit ton of humans are going to gather up in spaceships, and they're going to try and attack God at the breadth, which is one width of the earth. So one width of the earth into space. So between the earth and the moon, they'll be God's camp. Okay. And they will try and surround the camp of the saints in the beloved city, New Jerusalem, our Borg cube spaceship that's heaven. And if you destroy that, we have no heaven. Like, legit. We only have a heaven, a place to go that is paradisal after we die for our souls, because God is gifted that to us. Technically, he probably gifted it to Jesus, as Jesus runs and has complete control and power over everything. And Jesus is the one who's been decided who gets access to New Jerusalem. Ergo, when Jesus says, no one comes to God or to heaven except through me, or I am the bridge that gaps humanity to God. He's the one that gives access to people to God and heaven, God's kingdom, New Jerusalem, our spaceship, our beloved home for after we die. Okay? So whatever reasons, Gog and Magog are going to convince a bunch of people to try and blow up New Jerusalem. Maybe they're evil and they're not going there and they don't want anyone else to go. Who knows what's going on? All right? And the fire came down from God out of heaven, devoured them, and killed them all. And then after that, this is the final, rebellion, and then humans never disobey God again as far as we know. Okay? But there's a verse in here where I tell you, and it's in between, it's right after the angels cast the beast, which is a godless government, and the kings of the earth, who maybe they're kings who do believe they follow God, but they're not following him this day because they don't know what he wants from them. And their armies gathered together to make war against him and sat on the horse against his army. And the beast was taken with the false prophet, Dr. Fauci, who promises to cure the world of illness and disease with his bullshit mRNA vaccine to impose the 2 marks of the beast, one mask over the face and one vaccine shot in the arm. Neither fucking work. They're lies. They just hurt and kill people, just as Jesus said would happen. Right? So this is when this event is happening. But if you notice, square in the middle of this, in between when Jesus, or not Jesus, but John is talking about the final days where, the angels went out and throw, the beast and the false prophet into hell, for their contributions. And between the final rebellion, we get this. And I saw the thrones, they sat on them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus, for the word of God, which he had not worshipped the beast, neither in image, neither had received his mark on their foreheads, nor their heads. And they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. So this is saying that basically there were many Christians, people who were devout followers of Christ, who were beheaded as acts of this whole bullshit war that all the beasts and the kings had against God in the final days, leading to the end times. Okay? And now it doesn't explicitly give timestamps as to when this shit happened, as you can clearly see. But the fact that this one paragraph is embedded, and it makes no fucking sense why this would be here if it was not involved in the timeline somehow of the final days of the tribulation and the beast and the false prophet being thrown into hell, and that leading to the 1,000-year golden age, which does have one hiccup, the final rebellion right here. Do you see what I mean? It doesn't make any sense to assume that this paragraph was just thrown in there willy-nilly and really should have been written, 2 or 3 pages ago in Revelations. It doesn't make any sense if it's not appropriate. Okay? So I believe this is yet even more proof that there are Christians who are 100% going to suffer and die horrible, slow deaths from not only the false prophet and his decisions, but also all the kings and the beast, the godless authorities of the world who are trying to seize control and do all their bullshit games in the final days that we're kind of going through right now. All right? So, it only makes sense if you take that perspective. If you don't take that approach, this paragraph makes zero fucking sense why it's here. It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. All right? Well, that's that. Okay? And now, let's go to our final thing I'm going to look at. And this is a document that I made years ago when I first discovered that we are in the final days. Okay? Here's all the 7 signs of the final end days have to happen for the end of the days. And I got them all listed chronologically, as I believe they are. The first one starts with the rise of Fauci, the false prophet, over the AIDS pandemic in 1981. Marks and sores for those who worship the beast and praise his image. And this is the rise of Dr. Fauci in his glory, because he went from being a nobody to the head of the NIHD for, handling this, AIDS pandemic so well, even though today, in America alone, there's still like 3 million people with AIDS. That's 1% of the entire population. Doesn't seem very handled to me, but whatever. And then you got, seeds from red from blood from Fukushima, 2011. This one I talked about recently again. ISIS was told by God to do this, and they did that. And they said they would get a legitimate caliphate for doing that. And now, this ISIS faction that merged with al-Nusra magically, over just the most weirdest, unforeseen events ever, now have complete control over Syria. A legitimate caliphate, if ever there was one. Huh. Funny how that works out. Almost like when God makes a promise, it's going to happen. Huh. Very interesting. All right. And then we got, solar eclipse, blah, blah, blah. Okay? And the final one is COVID. Where, the 7th angel pours vial through the air, and through the air it spreads, and the voice and throne says it's done. Okay? It's COVID. Total nod to COVID. But I'm looking at some stuff here about the rapture. You see, see the beast and the Christian killer who overcomes the saints, whose name is 666, and that's just the government, because if you look at every barcode has 666 embedded into it. So when it says that you cannot buy or sell without the mark of the beast, which is the number adds up to 666, it's because everything has barcodes on it now. You cannot buy or sell anything without a barcode. And 666 is embedded into every single barcode ever made, because the first number is 6, the middle number is 6, and the last number is 6. It's the division parts for how the technology works. I met the guy that invented it a long time ago before he died at Avila. He lived in Avila in Tampa, Florida. I was a bartender there. So I got in a fight with some dude over some ice cream and got fired. Rich people are assholes, man. They really are. It was wild. All right. Well, now we go. Now. So the gospel will be preached. Okay. Unbelievers will be warned. The saints persevering over dying their testimony, and followed by the rapture and Armageddon and lots of blood. So, all right. You see the 144 Jews converted to Christ, and the 144 being identified Jews. And you see the gospel preached. Okay. So there's a breakdown of everything, right? Time-wise. And it's easy to see that the beast and his malicious persecutions and murders of countless Christians come before the rapture. So the answer is no, the rapture does not come before the tribulation. It comes after. If you thought that you were going to be spared the tribulation, the great test that we all must take to be determined worthy by God, just because you think of yourself as a Christian, you're wrong. You totally missed the mark on what God wants from you. I'm terribly sorry to be the one to break this news to you. And let's dig in a little deeper too. I think I'm about really convinced you on this one. So, everyone who sees the Son, believe in him, shall have eternal life, and I will be raised up at the last day. Okay? So, and they'll be raised up with him at the last day. When I see a phrase like the last hour or the last day, like he who rejects me and doesn't receive my sayings, as one who judges me in the word that I spoke, will judge him in the last day. Okay? When I think of the last day, I don't think of a caveat there, an asterisk, all right? Or it's like, well, the last day, pre-tribulation. It doesn't say that. It says the last day. I'm thinking of the last day of humanity as we know it. Like literally, as nukes come falling down from Putin's Russia, because he is already said, I'm not going to lose this war. Fuck you. Because if I did, it's because I was fighting NATO and not Ukraine. So if I lose this war, I'm going to use nukes. And I know you might be like, but Shine, Putin never said that. He has said that so many fucking times, my man. Here's the latest time he said it. Although technically this one wasn't him, it was his top advisor. I'll show you this real quick. And then we'll go back to this, because this is important. You need to know that this is a thing. Okay, this is my only social media account. If there's any others, it's definitely not me. Here's my 3 communities I run. This one I'm just in, but they suck. They're losers. They don't do anything. Okay? Tribulation. Oh, here we go. Putin's saying, I'm ready for a more dangerous world, Trump. Let's fuck. Does that sound like someone not thinking about using nukes to you? Yeah, it's because the nuclear treaty just expired, and Putin's like, no, we see no reason to renew that bitch. We might be using nukes soon. Fuck you. But, whoa, what is going on here? The latest. No, not the latest. Oh, man. It's not going to do it. Well, anyways, there was one that I did that was about... I wish I could search this. Maybe if I can. Putin's topic. Nah, it's going to search everything. Not just mine, unfortunately. And this one might, though. Search community. Wow. Yep, I got nothing. Alright, well, this was a whole waste. I'm sorry, but I could do it this way. There we go. So, Putin's top advisor, just like a week ago, said Russia will, you guys know what that word means, right? Will It's a different word for might, or could, or potentially. It has a different meaning and context entirely, really. So, Putin's advisors and Russia will use nuclear weapons against Europe if it comes close to a defeat, and it gives a timeline for this, and this timeline is exactly 12 months, 1 year. I don't know if it says it on this particular article, but he said it in the 15-minute video that I watched. He basically said, listen, if we lose this war, it's because NATO fucked with us, and we're not willing to do that. So if we don't win this war by 1 year from now, 12 months, we are going to use nukes against NATO. Fuck you. I personally say it's going to be 9 months from now. 9 months from now. Not 12. Not saying the man's a liar. I'm just saying I think his timeline's a little bit off. That's all. This is not... I'm not making this shit up, guys. Like, this is all legit. Okay? I'm not making this shit up. I don't make up anything. I don't lie. If there's something I want to tell you, it's going to make you feel uncomfortable, I'll slither in real fucking close and maintain eye contact and then grab your fucking balls and then say it to you. I'm not scared of you. I don't care about your attention. I only care about the truth. Don't worry. You're going to get the fucking truth from me. I promise. I promise. And I promise also, you're probably not going to like it as much as if I were to lie to you. Alright? So, he who rejects me, blah, 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 the word will be spoken and will judge him in the last day. Okay? Oh, here's another one, Jesus. Be thee ready therefore also, for the Son of Man cometh at an hour when you think not. Saying, you think I'm coming back in like 10 years. Probably more 2,000 years. Right? And here we go. Matthew describes a harvest. At the harvest, the sons of the kingdom are gathered in God's barn. The sons of the evil ones are bound in bundles to be burned later. Hell. The harvest, the resurrection, occurs at the end of the age. Here is the word of Jesus himself. The harvest is at the end of the age, and the reapers are the angels. This is a direct nod to the rapture, okay? And so basically what Jesus is telling you is there's going to be a harvest, and God is going to take out everybody at the same time, good and bad, but he's going to keep the good for himself and just leave the bad to hell, otherwise known as earth or dirt, whatever you want to call this fucking planet. When you die, become a ghost. It's not the most hospitable place for you. That's why you need to go somewhere like heaven when you're a ghost. A place made for you where you can be reborn again into another body. Because nobody goes to heaven without dying. So say God. Look, I think the only one that ever got there without dying was allegedly like, was he Ezekiel? Enoch? I think it was Enoch. And we don't even know. He just disappeared. We don't know if he went to heaven. God might have just killed him and then took his soul to heaven, which means he still died to get to heaven. Everybody dies to go to heaven, my man. Nobody goes to heaven without dying to get a new body. And I believe the reason why that is because God does not like diseases. Rightfully so. And that's his 100% way to deal with them. Never ever will heaven have a disease, because no one will ever go there without dying first and then being resurrected into a pre-approved, pre-clean body. It's all about cleanliness, really. No, in the Bible, it brings up cleanliness all the time. Like, cleanliness, being unclean is a very, very bad thing in God's eyes. And because if there's one thing God doesn't like, it's diseases. And this is one way to fail proof. Make sure you never have to worry about any diseases ever. No one goes to heaven unless they die and get resurrected in a clean body. That's the deal. Right? But, so, at the end of the age, and funny fact, what a lot of people don't know, is that the age of Aries ended pretty much the day Jesus was born, 1 CE. And that began the age of Pisces, 1 CE, about the day Jesus was born. And this age, this zodiac age that we are in, which lasts about roughly 2,000 to 2,100 years, we don't even know exactly because we haven't really lived through an entire one yet with modern science and astrology. We are literally about to enter the age of Aquarius. Okay? So we're only about 100 years off from that event, allegedly. We are in the final 5% of the age of Pisces that was ushered in by literally the birth of Jesus. I want you to think about that. When Jesus says, I will return at the end of the age, and the harvest is at the end of the age, the rapture, the tribulation, God's great happening for our species. A lot of people just assume that means some mythological church age that they then define to mean whatever the fuck they want it to mean. Okay? But in reality, what this means is the zodiac age. You remember, these people lived 2,000 fucking years ago. They didn't have boob tubes and television and radios and shit to fucking watch to keep themselves distracted, searching social media all day. What they did have, though, were the stars, okay? And they kept track of the stars. They knew the stars. They could look up in the sky at nighttime with the stars and tell you, just by that alone, what season they were in. They knew the fucking stars, man. Like we know YouTube. Okay? Because that's what they had to look at. And to sit here and to pretend that zodiacal events like the 2,000-year perihelion precession of the planet ovulating and shifting its view into different zodiac constellations as eras pass, and that Jesus is completely oblivious about this fact. Allegedly, even though he's going to go through space and bring a spaceship back, but he's completely oblivious about the stars and their position and how they change with orientation to a planet or precession. And like, it's just fucking stupid, dude. At some point, you sound like a fucking idiot. Just stop and just listen to another perspective for a few minutes. Please. My God. The age is a zodiac precession. They were aware of this 2,000 years ago. They were very aware of these things. And when they were to speak of things in thousands of years down the line, they would speak in terms of zodiac ages. This is what Jesus meant when he said the end is at the end of the age. Not the church age, which is an arbitrary thing that can be defined by any random pastor and their ramblings during any random Sunday, or an actual scientific zodiacal event. What do you think your God's going to choose? Seriously. Think about it. Which one do you think he's going to choose? Your God is a traveler among the stars. You are a fucking fool if you're going to look me in the eyes and be like, God, he never left the planet Earth. He came here and created it and never left it, never traveled. Fuck you. God has been all sorts of places you can't even imagine. You don't understand God. All right? So that's the deal with that. Now, final thoughts. When and why and how is this rapture going to happen? 3 things. When is about 7 months to the day. I personally think September 23rd, 2026. Not for any particular reason on that day. I'm just saying I believe that day is the benchmark at which this is all going down. It might be a couple weeks before that. It might be a couple weeks after. Maybe even a couple months I might be off. But I believe that's the benchmark we should be having right now. September 2023. Okay? My bad. September 23rd, 2026. I know. I'm fucking stupid. I fuck it up all the time. It's the booze, man. I can't help it. So, that's when. And that reasoning comes from the tribulation lasting exactly 7 years. And as we know, if I'm right, the Great Tribulation started, or the first signs start with the AIDS pandemic, and the final sign starting the 7-year date to the day was the COVID pandemic, handled by Dr. Fauci. Okay? So, that's that. So that's when. Okay? And I believe that's about 7 years to the date when COVID was actually released, about September 2026 from September 2029. Not that hard to see where I'm coming from with these numbers. Okay? Now, why does the rapture happen? This is very simple. It's not because your God likes to complicate things and to make them overly complicated. And I'd be like, but wouldn't it be cool if if we rapture all the people at the final hour, right before the nukes hit, so they don't have to suffer that millisecond of discomfort of being nuked. Really? Is that what you believe? Is that what you think your God does? Just fuck around and play games for showmanship and fun? Us as humans, we know of no thing in this universe that is more destructive that we can create or recreate than a thermonuclear bomb. An H-bomb. Ignite it by an atomic bomb. By a fission bomb. Make it a fusion bomb. Okay? This is the most destructive thing in the universe that we know of. We literally almost have the power of a fucking supernova in the palm of our hands when we create these fucking devices. That's how powerful it is. Okay? One H-bomb completely destroy all of New York. Gone. A radioactive crater with radioactive glass. Nothing more. Forever and ever and ever. Okay? Now, with this being known, I think it is safe to say, and there's people that will even argue with me on this, but my fucking Lord, just listen to the words coming out of my mouth before you debate. I think we can both agree it's safe to assume that if there is anything in this world that can destroy, maim, or harm a human soul, it is a thermonuclear device. Okay? Like, I'm sorry, but a scrunchie probably not gonna fucking do it. Scrunchie not gonna hurt a human soul. I'm gonna come out there and say that. Strange floaty bear thing that vibrates and oscillates and jiggulates. Love you. Not gonna hurt a human soul. Okay? Alcohol. Not gonna hurt a human soul. I'm gonna say that. Carrot. Lots of things. Not gonna hurt a human soul. But you know one that I think would? A thermonuclear fucking device that pits out more energy and more heat than our sun does in a millisecond. I think that could do it. I'm not saying it for sure would. I don't know the specifics involved of soul mechanics. But if anything were to, that would be the fucking thing, right? We can agree on that. Okay? So, we now have something that potentially could maim, harm, or destroy a human soul. And it is going off in almost every major fucking city around the planet within an hour period on the final day of God's judgment, courtesy of psychopath extraordinaire Putin, Magog of Gog. Now, now we have a reason why God has to intervene in this final hour. Because anyone that's a good Christian, or anyone that's a good person, shall I say, fuck Christianity. It does not matter if you're a Hindu. It does not matter if you're a Muslim. It does not matter if you're Buddhist. It does not matter if you're an atheist. If you are a good-hearted person and God values you, you will be chosen. Okay? That's a fact. Either by Jesus or by God. Either one can get you there. Okay? That's the truth of it. So, he's going to come in and gather all the people he wants to keep and let all the people he doesn't enjoy their deeds coming back at them in full force. So, he has to collect those souls before the nukes hit them. Because if a nuke hits them, it's going to fuck them up. Okay? So, what are we going to see? Jesus says God's angels are going to come and retrieve the people that he wants to take. Right? In the final hour. As the nukes are launched in the air and they're on their way. An hour left to go. Oh, shit, now it's time to go and save those souls. So, God's going to rally all of his angels. Oh, yeah, I calculated how many there were. It was a lot. I'll do a video about that one day. But they're going to come, and they're going to come looking like alien spaceships. Because that's what they are. So all these spaceships are going to come en masse and hovering over large city complexes and areas. And they're going to be killing people with a death ray. Fuck you. Die. And you're like, but Sean, I thought they were coming to save the Christians, not kill them. You've already forgotten what I've told you. Nobody goes into heaven without dying first and being resurrected in a clean body. They did not come to save your body, my son. They came to save your soul. And the second they kill your body, they will then separate your soul from your body and retrieve it and whisk it away safely to heaven, where you will be resurrected as an angel. So, just know, in days, the final hour, when Putin finally gets pissed off of NATO and launches those nukes, what to expect is you're going to be chilling drinking a coffee, whatever. Maybe you'll be dead asleep, and you're going to get an alert on your phone because our system is going to activate, but it's going to suck because it was made by humans and they suck. So you're only going to have like a 5-minute notice, maybe a 10-minute notice. So you're going to get like your phone alarm, and you're going to look at it, what the fuck? Oh shit, possible nuclear nukes coming in at all locations? What the fuck? What do I even do with that? And then fucking literally the nukes are like already 10 minutes away, and then you're just going to see spaceships coming down from the sky, fucking all like thousands of spaceships. You're like, how are there so many fucking spaceships? Just death rain, everybody around you. And then, you know, you see maybe a slight energy, you know, light beam hitting the dead bodies. Quickly second. You're like, what the fuck? And then the spaceships just kind of look at you and peace out. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? What just happened is you just watched God come and take the souls he wanted to take, and you weren't one of them. And now you're about to eat a fucking nuke in 10 minutes. And that is permadeath. No lingering as a ghost after that. No going to hell. Just straight up. Lights out. Fuck you. You don't exist anymore. And that day is coming sooner than you think, my children. 7 months by my count. But time tells no lies. As much as I would like to think I tell no lies, time really tells no lies. So we'll find out. Unfortunately, if you assume that I'm lying or that I'm wrong, and just wait and see, you might be condemning yourself to a horrible fate. Repent now. Do whatever you need to get in touch with God. It does not matter if you believe the face of God is Buddha, Allah, Krishna. Does not matter. Seophant. It does not matter. None of this matters. God no care what you think he looks like. I promise. He only cares that you are a good demigod, a kind demigod, a benevolent demigod, a generous and charitable demigod. He no give a shit what you think he fucking look like. I promise. And that's the deal. Anyways, I guess we'll leave it at that for right now. Until then, adios muchachos. Bisky whiskies. See ya!
Like, subscribe, submit.